You think you see crazy cases, but lo and behold, there is always the next case that tends to have a little bit more crazy to it. And this is one of the ones that I'm just shaking my head over still. Mark lives in Florida, and his ex-wife lives in New York, and he pays child support to the state of Texas. Now, this is an amazing thing. Mark has to fly in from Florida to Texas to go before a judge, and on 2 occasions he's gone before the judge, and the judge has been sick, and so he's had to fly back without getting anything done. And then today I found out when he's in the court, the amicus attorney, and she's always there for the best interest of the children, you know that, right? But she's so objective and so neutral. The amicus attorneys are not objective and they're not neutral. They take a side, and they're given way too much weight as far as what they think. I've seen this again and again and again. They're not the judge. But if they're in front of a jury, or they hear, or if a judge listens to them, it's almost as if they become the pseudo-judge.
Quickly, Jeff.
Yeah.
How much time did this amicus attorney or amicus attorney spend with your daughter?
Well, they had assigned an amicus to be somewhat neutral with the parents, but instead of being neutral, they already had the objective that she was going out of the house. Now, I had full custody, which is managing conservatorship, because of prior family violence from my ex-wife. So I have been raising my daughter for 11 years straight. Mm-hmm. In order to say that I've been raising my daughter, I mean I'm the soccer coach. I've been at every educational event from, you name it, from 2 years old on up. Matter of fact, I'm the one that was changing the diapers, everything. So you'd think that if you could bring that up to an amicus, that she could look at that unbiasedly and say, you know what, why would I break up a family dynamic? There's now 2 other children involved. There's a family unit. And instead of looking at it as the whole, it did seem like the amicus instead was saying, well, how can I get this so that basically child support is enforced, and we take this guy right through the process. And if you've never been through the process and you're watching this, you will be shocked. As Jeff had stated, it seems as though that you're going to have the law, which is like televised law. If you're watching TV, it's going to be televised to you that you're going to have justice. Well, I mean, there's a couple of songs, but one of them that comes to mind, the statement is, there is no justice, there is just us. And when you go into the courtroom, you find that it's just you. And if you're doing this based on having an attorney, then I would say you better keep your shields up, because your attorney is not there to serve you. He is also the extension of the court. He is an officer of the court.
So a conflict of interest is what you're getting at?
Well, I'd say more than a conflict of interest, it's quite deceptive, because it is a conflict of interest with the client, but it's not advertised as a conflict of interest.
Right.
So there is some deceptive practices going on there.
Right. One of the attorneys that you had was
Donald Duck.
And I know
Donald Duck.
been in his office. He advertises as, you know, Martindale Hubbell, one of the most ethical attorneys in Dallas. But in your opinion, he did not do everything he should have been doing as an attorney. Is that correct?
My opinion would obviously be through the experience I personally had with not just
Donald Duck,
but many attorneys. They will advertise that they represent you. Instead, they're representing their bank account.
Right.
And if this scenario could be played out, imagine I am talking to representation, and you get to a point where you are trying to basically have a dialogue and get information. Now,
Donald Duck
has a way of saying he's right, and most attorneys, if you ever deal with them, and for your audience, they're going to tell you how they're going to be. Remember, the attorney represents you, you pay them, they work for you. But for some reason, They don't understand that, and they'll tell you that they're running the show. You have to always maintain control of your attorney. They're there to give you information. Well, in my situation, it got to the point where I didn't understand the point, and I said, well, actually, I need about 10 minutes to figure out what I want to do here while I was on the phone with
Donald Duck.
and he gives me an idea of what to do and his interpretation, and I don't agree with it. We get to a standstill in the conversation, and I said, well, I got to take some time to think about this and find out what I should do. And he says to me, I think you should get another attorney, and he hangs up on me.
Wow.
How much money had you invested in
Donald Duck.
by that point?
$7,500.
I want to jump in for just a moment here. We're talking to Mark.
Yeah.
But Jeff, I talk to men on a daily basis that this is a reoccurring thing.
Yeah.
If it's wrong thinking to think that the customer controls who's providing this
Right.
legal service. The profession is deeply understood by almost universally. They are first of all officers of the court. So their first obligation is to the court, the second is to the bar, the third is to their own pocketbook, and then you're down at the bottom of the list, fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
Mind you, guys, I've had 4 attorneys.
And they've all done the same thing.
They have all done the same thing. So I'm not actually even convinced that at this point that you're going to do any better with representation, because in the end they've already had their own objective. Now
Donald Duck.
is revered by the attorneys in this area. Why? Well, he's obviously the situation that you said, Jeff. He is probably leading the way on how to really get to people, and for that I did all my research, and they said, well, no, if you really want to do this, you need to talk to
Donald Duck.
Now, if you're talking to the club members are going to know their own members.
Right.
So
And favors will be returned.
exactly, and on top of that, he said he knew the opposing counsel. I was in his office. They're talking like they've been fishing buddies for ages.
Well, that's not
And
uncommon either.
They're probably planning another vacation on my expense.
At your expense, absolutely.
So, when it comes down to attorneys, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have legal representation. I'm just saying be aware that it's nothing like most people that are laymen would see as being representation.
So, and I think you both made some interesting points here, because the loyalty of the attorneys is not first of the client. There are other things first, including the pocketbook. And what is good for the pocketbook? A little bit of tension, a little bit of conflict, a little bit of anger between the two that I can generate. I've heard people say that, my wife and I went into court and we were actually decent friends. By the time we left, thank you, people like
Donald Duck.
they're mortal enemies. They want to kill each other because attorneys make money off of conflict.
So you've been going through this, Mark, for how long? I'm going to
Yes, sir,
tie
absolutely.
this
Go
in.
ahead.
So you've been doing this
It's
roughly
been
how
a year and a half, and the reason how this all initiated was my first attorney basically thought that it wasn't time of the essence. Now you got to remember, all attorneys have different clients. So if you think you're going to get 100% of the attention by hiring an attorney, you are not. You're one of many. You're on a list, and you're probably going to be looked at the night before court. So,
And the judge may not read the paperwork until you're in court.
yes, and this is why most of the people that are in court are confused. I was confused in my first day because I was sitting in court and feeling like I'm having an out-of-body experience, because here's a guy sitting in a tall chair above me, and maybe to the left is an actor, another one's an actor. But when you get that idea that all of this is theater, as you had mentioned earlier, then you understand what's going on. And all the players know what's going on.
Right.
But you're sitting there thinking, this is not a stage. This
Yeah.
is supposed to be ethical.
It's my life.
Exactly. And yet they're in it every single day. It's not a natural place to be for any regular person.
Right.
And you're feeling out of place.
Yeah.
So you get the emotions, the anxiety, the nervousness. And then what is really bad about this is you're not really allowed to talk.
No.
Now you've got
Yeah.
a representative that's sitting next to you, and what if that representative isn't good? You don't know. The legal profession is so unethical. They're the only profession where you pay in advance,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't work out, you don't get any of that money back.
It is a secret society. It's kind of like, you used to hear about the Masons and how they had all these secret passwords and handshakes and stuff like that. Well, that's exactly what goes on with these attorneys. I mean, that's and it's almost like, the law needs to be written in Sanskrit. Only we attorneys, the high priests of the legal system, can help navigate you through these treacherous waters. And we'll make something up. We don't even follow the law ourselves at different times. We don't know what it means all the times. But the thing is that these high priests will take your money from you, as you were saying, and they'll, Mark, you don't understand what's going on. I will speak on your behalf. And I've said repeatedly, if you want to get truth, do not go to the courtroom. Because if you want to tell the truth, number one, you might have your own attorney representing you who's going to filter the truth and not let you speak freely. And number two, if you do start to speak, the high priest on the other side, the other attorney, will say objection and will shut you down. It's a whole charade. It's not even, it's a likability contest at times. It's which person can tell the bigger story, which person can give the greatest lies.
Jeff, and Mark here, you spent a year and a half of jumping through all these hoops, hiring various attorneys. And
Four
then
retainers.
Four retainers, what, 20, 30 grand?
At least.
Okay. And yet, and then in the process, you've had your daughter stolen.
Yeah, it's almost criminal how it's, in a way, legal kidnapping, where a piece of paper is sent over to you and it could be completely filled with lies or whatever, but you're not given of course, proven innocent before guilty.
Right, you're guilty.
You're guilty and you have to prove your innocence, which is insane.
And they do that, just briefly, they do that because, from a practical standpoint, because it's civil and not criminal. Now, my reason that I want to boil down is you spend a year and a half, stripped it all due process, not given due process, your daughter's gone, now you're forced into debt, all this money gone. And in what, 2.5, 3 minutes, you saw, less than 10 minutes, you saw 3 divorces happen. Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's very
because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
But the divorce is really the ticket, because really what we want is the fighting after the divorce. Because that way we can always say that, you know what, we are looking out for our clients by making sure the divorce is cheap and easy, like abortion. We need to have it easy and available, but not necessary. We want to make it rare, right, supposedly. But the reality is the divorce attorneys, the anti-family law attorneys, they love the idea of a quick, easy divorce, because where they make the money is not necessarily in the divorce itself, it's in going back to court again and again, the modifications, that we need to go back for more here. And
because it really is a marketing scam.
Yeah.
As soon as you're in the system, you're locked in. And the only way to get out of the system is using the people that are in the system that trap you in the system.
Right.
As you saw today, you need an attorney. Here you go, bring me back in the system. Now, I've been pro se for the last 6 months and actually handled the case from the judge, his opinion, better than most of my attorneys, if not all the attorneys. And yet here I am, pro se, and now sucked right back into the system.
Right.
It's not going to be cheap, and they know it, and yet these are the rules of the game.
Right.